Austin, what do you mean when you say that your name is in rooms that you haven't been in?
I mean that most people only think about themselves based off of how they fucking view themselves. Really, it's like, hey, I think that I'm a good person. I go to sleep and I say, Austin, you did good today. Or I say, I think I did well at work today. That's cool. You might say all those things about yourself, and you might think they're true to you. However, there's something that I want to key in on here because I really despise it. You know what I despise, Jose?
What do you despise, Austin?
I despise when people say, oh, it's your truth. Live your truth. There's only one fucking truth, you fucking bozos, and that's what's happening in reality. And whether you choose to believe that or not is up to you. But if you don't believe it, then that makes you fucking delusional. So you could tell yourself before you go to sleep that you're a great person, that you're, highly sought after, you're intelligent, you're the best person at your job. But if you ask people to be candid, or if they're talking about you without you even being in that room, would they say the same thing about you? And to me, if you want to get further in life, how you view yourself is very important, yes. But how people view you and choose to do things in regards to you is also very, very important. Because if you're working for someone right now, and you might think that you're doing a fucking great job, and they think that you're doing a fucking F- of a job, you know what's going to happen? You're probably getting fired no matter if you think you're doing a good job or not. So that's why it's important to establish a good reputation about yourself to where people can talk about you glowingly, whether you're there or not. And if they're talking about you glowingly while you're not there, then that could open doors that you may not even realize that are present. And that's why we call the present, because it is a gift. And you're missing out on multitudes of gifts by displaying shows of bad character or not having a good reputation with those who you have interacted with.
And that made me think of a quote from Alex Hormozy.
Oh, wow.
The great AH. You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Give yourself so much goddamn proof that you are the version of yourself you want to be, and you'll become them. Outwork your self-doubt. You perfectly described the fact that people root their identity and their sense of self in complete illusions of reality. And what do I mean by that? People construct a false reality, and then they construct themselves within that false reality. They make themselves the center of the universe. They make themselves skinny when they're fat. They make themselves worthy when they're unworthy. They make themselves rich and successful when they're not. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for all of this. Think and Grow Rich. We've spoken on this in depth, and we believe that it is something that you need to work towards and a mindset that you should hold. However, you should acknowledge that your current state of being is not that of which you're desiring to be in. Although it is true that you need to first think before you become. In most cases, you need to understand there's a third component. You need to understand that you need to become that person. You are not there yet. And that's where a lot of people get confused, because first, it's difficult to imagine that room. Second, it's difficult to imagine your conduct in that room. But third, and most painful, is to realize how far off you are from being that person in that room. That might be you want to join the NBA, but you're 16. You're fat, you're out of shape, you can't shoot a three, you can't even make a layup, and your defense is subpar. You're basically James Harden minus the skill, but your defense is about the same. So it's going to hurt you to say, geez, man, I suck.
I'm a fucking
I need to train so much. How far I am from my goal is daunting. But that's when you need to establish or incorporate the mindset and the framework that's very simple. What's the next step? What's the next evolution? Okay, my defense is shit. How do I get better? Well, maybe I'm not laterally quick. Maybe my reflexes are slow. So those are two things that I can immediately start training. Rather than thinking, how can I stop 6'4" Austin from absolutely posterizing me? It should be, okay, cool. Can I move to the side faster than I could yesterday? All right, what's my reflexes like? Can I respond when somebody pivots? Boom, boom. Can I stop on a dime? Okay, these are small skills that you train. And then eventually you realize you can conglomerate and make all of your features collaborate to make you a better individual.
Right.
And we see this in business. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to play politics. You have to have product knowledge. You have to be well networked. You have to be well connected. You have to have your finances in order. You need to have your documents in order. You need to have domain knowledge that puts you ahead of other people. And you also need to be likable. You need to dress well. You need to treat people with respect, and you need to listen more than you speak. So all of these alone are difficult abilities to gain, but when you're stacking wins and wins and wins, it's only natural, and you need to be coachable. So as you're coachable, as you're learning from your experiences, as you're experiencing more difficult things, you're building that repertoire of skills and abilities, which increases your capacity. And when you look down, you realize, holy shit, I'm at the top of the mountain. Of course, the next mountain's up there. That's your real goal. But you're like, wow, I'm 25% of where I need to be. That's a lot more than the 0% or the negative percentile that I was in 2 years ago.
So you said something that I liked. And
that's a first.
I know, right?
Wow.
You said
is the sky
one
falling?
thing out of many that I liked, but this one specifically, because this applied to me. And I feel like this is what, of course, it's all God's plan, but I think this is what held me back. You said being coachable. Now, Jose and I had the same coach.
Oh my gosh.
And though I could score, I could rebound, I could defend.
Okay, yes, we get it. You're the best.
I didn't say I didn't
You
say
might as well
that.
say it without saying it.
I didn't say that.
All-star. All-star Duffin. AD. All-star Duffin.
I didn't say that. But
Mr. Yes.
I appreciate you. But one of the main things that kept me from going far playing basketball and playing it in the collegiate level, in my opinion, was the fact that I was not coachable. Because whenever our coach would say something that I disagreed with, it wasn't like, okay, yes, sir, I'll do it better next time. It was, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Fuck no, I'm not doing that shit. Why would I fucking do all that fucking extra work when I could play smarter, not harder, and I could still accomplish the same fucking thing? I'm not doing that, and you're yelling at me. So now I'm really not going to do that because I don't like when you yell at me, because if you respect me, you would not yell at me because you could just say the shit and I would do it, but you're yelling at me, so now it's fuck you. So I would...
Do you know how many laps we had to run because this guy wouldn't tuck his jersey in?
I forgot about that.
Do you know how much? Just like, think about what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. This guy wouldn't tuck his jersey in, and we'd have to fucking run. And they'd be like, tuck your jersey in, Austin. Get on the line. God.
Yeah.
Jersey. It got to the
wish-
point where he didn't even ask you anymore. He just let you fucking play without your jersey tucked in. He was like, whatever, fuck it.
I wish that he was lying and exaggerating, but he wasn't.
It's a character building history, it's like,
but
the battles happened, the people lost, lives were lost.
There you go. But here's the thing. He was a well-known coach, and people would come and see him. There were some times where, other coaches of colleges would come by and watch his practice and shit like that. And I would always wonder, I was like, okay, I did good in practice. I did pretty well in front of them. I did well in the game. I'm not hearing anybody ask about me. I'm not hearing any colleges say, hey, where's, or who's that guy? Why is that? The skill was there. The points were there, all that type of shit. But I didn't have the coach that would vouch for me. Why? Because I wasn't coachable. And because of how I acted, because of how I carried out doing certain things and, either disrespected him knowingly or unknowingly, when those times would come and people would ask, hey, who do you got on the team that's, a potential star that, could play college basketball? I think he might have even told me this once, where he was like, have this guy here. He's pretty good. He's got to work on his coachability. And that was something that I heard, and I tried to get better, but then I reverted back to my childish, immature ways and kept being uncoachable because I was just so prideful. And when those times came where he was in rooms with people while I wasn't there, it wasn't all glowing reviews. It was, yeah, he's probably good, but, right? And that potentially had something to do with the stagnation of my basketball career. It was my fault because of how I conducted myself. So even though you might think that how you act doesn't really matter like that, if anything that you're doing relies on someone else for you to improve, progress, or level up, which most things do whether we know it or not, how you act is such an integral part to you succeeding and leveling up, whether you like to believe it or not. Because when those people are in other rooms with them and however many other people and you're not there, and the time comes about where they're like, hey, who's Austin? Hey, who's Jose? Tell me a little bit about him. If it's not all glowing reviews, they're not going to fucking give you a chance. And of course, you can still succeed without that, but it would behoove you to be able to have that reputation to where the hard work that you're putting in to make sure that you have a squeaky clean record and a squeaky clean persona and people like you, even though you may not want to do it, you're putting in the work so that people can view you that way. It pays off in the long run. And that was a long story to show you how that affected me negatively. And I want you all to think about that in the future so it can affect you positively. And you have that reputation among people where it's like, oh, Jose, love that guy. Oh, well, actually, speaking of which, he's dealing in this. Oh, yeah, I know somebody who's doing that. You know what? I'm going to connect them. And that's normally how shit works for us these days.
That makes me think, why don't we sell some cigars to CC?
I think he plays golf.
Oh.
Damn! Hey!
Hey, yo!
Yeah. He's very well known at a lot of golf clubs. Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we could hit him up for, a quick little smoke,
Yeah, and who knows? We could even invite, even though he probably won't come to short notice, but we can invite him to show that we're doing shit for the shit tomorrow. And he's like, oh, wow, they're doing shit.
You should. You have his number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely don't have my number.
Yeah.
We should invite Coach Ingram as well. And what was his other name?
Who, Coach Ingram?
Coach Wall. Oh. Starts with a W.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. He'd probably be the one who shows up.
Yeah, I know. I fuck with him. He was cool.
Coach Ingram pulls up in a suit, like a pinstripe suit.
That's my guy, bro. Shout out Coach Ingram. Shout out and Coach whoever the
W.
W.
I forgot. Yeah. You're the G.
That was a tangent, but you see how quickly business shit happens and we just think of shit and then we go about fucking planning a plan of execution. That's what we do.
So, here's where I'm going to ask y'all a real question. I don't want to hear any boo-boo bullshit about, I don't care if my name is being spoken of. I don't care if anybody remembers my name. I don't care if my name holds any value. I don't want to hear that. There's not a single human being on this earth who's okay with being completely isolated. Now, okay, that might be an exaggeration. There are outliers. This is true. The Neanderthalic modern shut-ins, whatever you want to call them. But the vast majority of us are social animals, and we require a degree of recognition to help build our character. If you think that if you would like to suppress yourself and be a person that nobody remembers, I really want you to think about that and see where that thought is coming from. I want you, and I challenge you to do the introspection to where you realize, hey, is this truly coming from me, or is this a superficial sort of plea for a different kind of attention?
Correct.
Sort of self-pity or a grievance, maybe. Because you should have a little bit of ambition that says, hey, in certain rooms, I want my name to be remembered. When I go to the bank, I want them to know Austin is Austin and I'm Jose. I want them to know that, right? When we deal with people in business, we want people to know us by name or by company. Oh yeah, those are the two guys that do XYZ. Yeah, great guys. That's how we want to be remembered. And if you say, no, I don't, I just don't think you realize what that means. I think you also don't realize the progress or the ambition that you should be striving for in your life. Because if you're a person who doesn't desire anything, doesn't desire better food or better conditions for their family or a more expensive movie ticket, right? You want to go into IMAX theater, okay, a better car. If you're not a person who just wants less stress, I don't know what to tell you. I would think that's rather, one, inhumane, because that means that you're not seeking to better conditions. And two, biblically speaking, that's a sin, because that's the sin of sloth. That's one of technically the 7 deadly sins from a different reference, because the whole reason for ambition is that if I'm ambitious and I'm pushing Austin in return being ambitious is pushing me, which means we're creating better and better outcomes for ourselves together and for everybody around us, because the rising tide raises all ships. Mm-hmm. And if you fail to do that, you're failing to play your role. Just like how bees have a role to play in the hive. You have a role to play in the world. It doesn't matter how small it is. It could be preventing one person from having a horrible day or making a terrible decision in your entire lifetime. It could be that one moment. But it could also be something so simple as you just need to make people smile wherever you are. Or you just need to be the villain that makes the hero win. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, you set out to achieve something, whatever it might be. You do it well, and you're raising people around you while you do it. It's a lot more simple than you think. And normally I'll say it's more simple in theory than in application, but I'd actually say it's more simple in application than it is in theory. You just have to do it. It'll take time, but it's actually not that hard. Other things are way harder. Just consistently showing up and making things better is not hard.
Right.
Achieving something of excellence is hard. There's a difference, because I can make a good cup of coffee every day and give it to Austin, and Austin will be happy. However, if I make the best cup of coffee of that century, which one do you think is more difficult?
Agreed. And the one that's more difficult is going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of effort. And one might say, well, it's just coffee. You know, I'll excel in this over here. I'll really try in this over here. I'll really take the time and effort to make sure everything works over here.
You small-minded bastard.
Yeah.
It's not just about
coffee. It's not just coffee. But you might think that you're willing to do all this shit for something over here that you care for, but say fuck it when it comes to this, when it comes to that cup of coffee. But even though you may not think of it like this, and I have to do better at this as well, it's something that you have to commit to every day. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you're not doing too much, you might not realize this, or you might not really care. But as you grow and as your ambitions grow and your goals grow, you can't be lazy in 95% of your life and expect the 5% that you're not lazy in to be fucking immaculate. It's not going to work out that way. So there's this book called, I believe, Make Your Bed.
Yes, by General... Yes.
By General Yes. Now...
General William McRaven.
Exactly.
McRaven.
Now, I will admit, all the time, do I make my bed all the time? Do I do all the shit that I need to do all the time, every single day? No, I don't. And I need to get better at that, because I've started to realize that how I do one thing is how I do everything. If I cut corners here, it might be a slow process, but it's infectious. If you cut corners in one area of your life, that mentality will slowly begin to seep into the other areas of your life that you have more care for. So in order to really become the person that you want to become and have people speak about you glowingly, you're going to have to carry that same work ethic that you do in whatever it is that you care about into developing a good reputation about yourself. Even though you may not deem it as important, it's still something that you have to commit to every single day. Because if you do one thing well, why not do everything else well? You can see the benefits of doing that one thing very well. Sure. But if you do everything that you try to do, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis well, then that raises the level of your overall quality of life, whether you think so or not. Because you could be a great salesman, but a horrible spouse. But say that you were a great salesman and a fucking great spouse. Now the shit that you were fucking taking time out of your day to argue about, the grief that it was causing you, having an unhappy wife, having unhappy children because of the fucking turmoil that's happening in your house because you're not a good spouse. All that shit is gone. The kids are happy. Your wife's happy. And instead of her bickering about something, now she's there to help you with certain things. Now she's willing to do certain things that she wasn't willing to do before because you're in turn a great spouse, a better spouse. And again, it's not something that you think about. I was like, oh yeah, that'll have, a direct correlation to the improvement of my life right away. But the more you increase these things, the more that you care about these things and seek to improve these little things here and there, the more that you can succeed in your main thing, as well as everything else in your life. And if you have a greater fucking encompassing skill set when it comes to the things that you're very good at or the things that you're good at in general, that means that you have more opportunities for success in whatever realm that you choose. The deep breath. Is he about to say something that's going to hurt your feelings? More than likely. Let's see how he goes here. You guys fucking suck. You guys got to do better. I fucking hate y'all. No, I'm joking.
The second one. You guys have to do better. It's interesting. It's always the topic of my conversations with Austin is today just the day that we point out Jose's insufficiencies? Well, the saying that you will continuously find me saying throughout every single day, and you can ask Austin. And mind you, I have a pretty big filter. I know it doesn't seem like it. I know it doesn't, and I don't mean just on the podcast. I mean in general. Like if you only knew what was going on in here, you would probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. But even then, it's kind of like when when Sasuke looked into the first time he saw the Nine Tails in Naruto, when he came back after training with Orochimaru, and he was like, oh, so this is the reason why you're so strong. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's a big fucking presence. Just like that. It's what you would be like. You'd expect it, but it would catch you off guard. But I always say, every single day, I'm just reminded of my crippling insufficiencies continuously throughout the day. Because you realize, if you pay attention enough and if you're perspicacious enough, you'll realize everywhere you fail and every time you fall short and how much more you really could be doing to make sure that things happen how they should. It's actually hysterical. I mean, while we're here, I'm like, okay, I have to go get some rest after this. But I'm like, I need to read this document, schedule this email, make this phone call, run this number, do this, do that. And I'm like, and that was all on my agenda to be done today already. Did it get done? No. May somebody say that's a ridiculous timeline? Perhaps. But crippling insufficiencies. Because in my opinion, I should be able to handle that. And if that's not the case, then I should be able to have the money to hire somebody to handle half of that or a part of that. But I have neither the time nor the money, which means that I'll just have to sit there in the crippling insufficiency until it becomes sufficient. And then once you reach that level, you're going to want to go further. So I think you just have to have a, not even comfortable, but a degree of dissatisfaction with your current circumstance always. You shouldn't be comfortable. You shouldn't expect to be comfortable. The only people and things that should be comfortable are women, children, and dogs. Not even cats. Because we don't deal with pussies here.
But I like what you said there. Like, somebody would probably say it's unhealthy to have something around you that irks you or isn't making your life content.
If they could see those photos over there.
Yeah, very true. And that goes into what I'm saying. It's like, I think that you should always have something around you that pisses you off. Because if everything was just fucking peachy around you, there's no fucking want for growth. But if you have something around you that pisses you off consistently, it's either going to force you to do something about it yourself or find somebody that can do it for you. Either way, it gets fucking done. Because there are things that we have and we keep around here that we see that pisses us off. And what does it do? It enrages us to do better, to continue to grind, to continue to struggle to get to where we want to go. So it's like having that rock in your shoe. If you continuously have that rock in your shoe or that hole in your sock, as someone likes, it always reminds you that there's room for growth. Bless you. That there's room for growth and an opportunity to do better, to live better, to feel better. And it might be small. It might even be your problems, but always will there be problems on this fucking earth. And your problems might be fucking solved. Who knows? You might just have the fucking greatest life. But is your mom's problem solved? Are your friends' problem solved? Or are your children's problem solved?
Is your dog's problem
Is your dog's problem solved?
Is your neighbor's
problem solved? Probably not.
Is your mentor's problem solved?
Exactly. So if you keep shit around you where there's always a need for help, there's always a need for improvement, then it always forces you to grow. And when you do that, when you have that mentality, when you work hard, when you're willing to take on other people's problems, solve other people's problems for them, or, you know, at least be willing to give a helping hand, people start to take notice. And that's what we've done, hopefully, in your eyes, with this podcast. And we've tried to help people. We try to be there for people. And we try to help people improve and grow in their lives. And that's something that was noticed by someone recently. And because of that, we got an opportunity. And we weren't even in that room when that fucking opportunity was bestowed upon us. So, again, the importance of doing everything to the best of your abilities, doing things the right way, conducting yourself to where people remember you and say, that's a good fucking guy, matters. And we have been bestowed so many opportunities, so many free things, so many money, actually, now I think about it, because of who we are, how we carry ourselves, and how people talk about us when we're not there. So, to all of you, who are you? Who do people say you are when you're not around? Ask yourself that. Ask the people that. And see what response you get.
The AM Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.